sanctions must be imposed on it. So to talk about these latest developments, today we have with us Professor Rajiv Vijayasinghe, former Secretary to the Ministry of Human Rights and Disaster Management, and now the Member of the Parliament. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you.
Professor, first would like to know what is these latest developments and how, as the government, especially as the member of the government party, how you are responding to these?
Well, I should first point out that obviously I don't have an executive responsibility, which perhaps makes it easier to comment on what seems to me a really invidious document. I look at it in one way as fulfilling that saying, you know, hell hath no fury, like a woman scorned. And I'm afraid that this international crisis group, I'm not really talking about Louise Arbour, but Gareth Evans is a bit of an old woman himself. And these people thought that they could tell us what to do. Gareth Evans came here a few years ago. He was flogging his concept of responsibility to protect. It's a doctrine that's perfectly accepted by the United Nations in a certain form. But Gareth came here and said Sri Lanka needed to be protected. And he offered himself as the protector. In fact, he spent an evening telling me how bad the Sri Lanka monitoring mission was and how he would do a better job. Louise Arbour was UN Tribune, head of the UN High Commission. Not she. She's a very dignified woman. She thought I called her a footballer. I didn't. She's a very nice person. But her staff kept telling me the Scandinavians are terrible. Why doesn't the UN have a role? Sri Lanka did a great job in crushing terrorism with as much concern as possible for civilians. We rescued a large number. This report shows its envy. It says other countries want to emulate Sri Lanka. So they want to quickly get in and stop this happening, because that is a way in which many countries will deal with terrorism, but also, as Sri Lanka is doing, deal with the root causes. Because we have to think that, you know, if people go into such extreme things, we must try and look after their problems. Not that we don't tolerate terrorism. But I think the key lies perhaps in the end. Not only do these guys want Sri Lanka investigated, they say that they want an inquiry into the conduct of the United Nations.
Yes.
You see what has really happened, and this is something we have to be careful of, and the timing when the G15 took place and President Rajapaksa was inducted as the president is a sign that some people are angry that the unipolar world is over. And it wasn't the unipolar world. I think we can talk to governments. I'm sure we'll have no problem with the new British government. We have no problem with the Indian government, the US government. But these people who were busybodies and wanted to take the place of national, sovereign, third world governments by telling us what to do, they are furious that that moment has passed. That the world together is resisting these impositions of external, unaccountable authority. And so they're pushing.
So, Professor, very recently President Mahinda Rajapaksa appointed 8-member commission under the heading the Lessons Learned and Reconciliation. What's the objective of this commission, and how are we going to counter all these allegations, especially through these?
Well, I think that commission is important for certain factors that have been brought up. There's an attempt to say that the wrong things that happened are entirely the fault of the government. I know this talks about the LTT as well, but if you read it through carefully, and I did so today, they sort of pretend the LTT wasn't really up to any good. In fact, they try and defend the LTT and say they're not guilty of using human shields. Why? Because apparently they knew that we'd fire anyway. I mean, that was the whole point of their using human shields, because they want to internationalize the whole thing and treat their own people so badly. But I think it's important that you have that committee that has been set up to look into what went wrong, because a lot of things did go wrong. My own view, of course, is that a lot of the bad faith of the LTT was encouraged precisely by people like Gareth Evans, who allowed a mindset to develop that a terrorist group was the equivalent of an elected government. That was outrageous. So on the one hand, I think that is correct. I think on the other hand, the government should also be moving very quickly towards what I think is the future form of reconciliation. You see, this commission, like this report, goes into the past, and we have to defend ourselves against wild allegations. And of course, if bad things have occurred, we have to look into them.
But Professor, even during last time when this Channel 9 video case was there, Professor Phil Palsted questioned about the credibility of the committee appointed by the Sri Lankan government to look into the case. But now again, Sri Lanka, the President Mahinda Rajapaksa has appointed this commission with all Sri Lankan members. So how do you count all these?
Well, I don't know whether you've read my response to Alston. I mean, he actually had the gall to suggest that any Sri Lankan was suspect, even if they lived abroad, as though he himself isn't suspect. I mean, Professor Siriheva, universally respected. He was one of the network of Sri Lankan professionals. I mean, none of us had heard of Siri Hayward before he wrote in, because he showed us this thing was wrong. In fact, I've just done a piece which I sent to Defence Web on Professor Alston and his lovely bunch of coconuts. You know, he brought 3 experts who are actually more honest than he is. They confessed, which Alston didn't tell us, that he never got the video from Channel 4. He got the video from this Committee of Journalists for Democracy, you know, those crooks led by Sunanda Deshapriya. You know, I mean, really, but he never admitted that, you know, if he couldn't get it properly. So I think Alston is really not a very serious person. But I think the real problem is that here we find an attempt by people like Gareth Evans to even criticize the UN. The UN is responsible, its member nations, it's an accountable organization. Yeah, Gareth Evans is not. Yeah, the Sri Lankans who have been appointed seem to be perfectly capable of looking into this job of checking on if anything went wrong and pointing it out and lessons learned. But as I said, that is no substitute for the future. And I think the work that this government is doing into integrating all its people into a society in which they all have opportunities is even more important.
Before going to the last question, Professor, just want to know what is there to stop the government of going for an international independent probe into all these allegations?
Because this word independent doesn't exist. You know, you mentioned initially there is an independent group. It's not an independent group at all. Where do they get their money from? What is Gareth Evans' agenda? Gareth Evans is the man who wants a job. He was supposed to have brought peace to Cambodia. He didn't. There have been enough criticisms of what he did. He then went away. If you talk to many people in Australian Foreign Mission, he's an interfering old busybody who's got worse as he's got old. And I met him when he came to Sri Lanka. He doesn't answer my letters. I'm proud to say I'm the only official quoted positively in here. And when I told him, why don't you answer my letters, he said, I've been told you're a dangerous person to meddle with. Right. I thought that was a compliment. But this man wants a job. He wanted to come here to replace the Norwegians. He is now looking for another role. His R2P was an attempt to catapult the UN into forgetting the principles of R2P. He tells lies. You know, he accused this country of genocide and ethnic cleansing. When I challenged him, he didn't know what he was talking about. He looked at his assistant who had written the report, who said, yes, there was ethnic cleansing in 1990. I said, yes, Mr. Evans, the LTT did chase the Muslims out. Your report doesn't mention it was 18 years ago. This report, I think he's learnt his lesson and he won't tell lies again. It says the only instance of ethnic cleansing was in 1990. Genocide. I mean, I'm not saying there was ever genocide in Sri Lanka, but the only time at which it could be alleged that government acted badly was 1983. And now, of course, the government and the people who engaged in those brutal activities against our fellow Tamils are now the loved ones of the international community. Okay. These are not independent, they have a political agenda.
Professor, just final question. What the Sri Lankan government can do, especially in future, to avoid all these allegations and count all these the allegations, especially these kind of reports in the future?
Well, I personally feel we should have responded more quickly to the American State Department questions. They were very politely put, and I think, you know, it was fair enough. They said, look, we've heard these stories, we're not saying they're true. Can you look into them? I myself, you know, these people, they are concerned in human rights. As head of the Peace Secretariat, I monitored every single thing. I had this report. This is alleged attacks by Sri Lanka Army as reported by Tamilnet. I have the list of the air attacks as well. I have the explanations. And it's quite interesting looking at this document. When the American thing came out, I actually checked this against their one. And there are explanations for certain incidents. In this particular one, I think it's very necessary that we go through this. We point out the lies in this, because, for instance, when the UN was... there are 3 things they accuse of us. We have to point out very clearly that attacks on civilians was not by us. There was an attack on civilians in the no-fire zone. The UN thought it was us initially, and that's why I think it's very unfair to criticize the UN guys. They did their best at the time. Later they told us, for information, we now believe most of the firing was the LTT. So we have to establish those by looking precisely at, I don't think we need to look at all these incidents, and just show that this is half-truths and lies.
Okay, right. Thank you very much. That was Professor Rajiv Vijayasinghe, the former Secretary to the Ministry of Human Rights and Disaster Management, and now the Parliamentarian. Thank you very much, Professor, once again.
Thank you.
So with that, we go for a short break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at more local stories. Do stay with us.